I'm reading O.J Simpsons if I give it, and I wanted to do little progress updates as I'm going through reading it on my Kobo. And so I have the text scaled so that you can reference what page I'm on. You probably can't see that. Whatever. I'm on page 6 of 129. My text on is fairly small, but I am at the line where he describes Nicole as being, where's the exact word so I don't get this wrong? Okay, he'd seen her get physical when she was angry. This is good for lighting. This absolute monster who murdered his ex-wife in cold blood alongside an innocent man just described that woman as physical when angry. Now, that may not sound that bad, right? It's not that bad of a descriptor, right? It's just, just occasionally she got physical. That leaves it up to the imagination, right? Now, most people reading this are reading it for the sake of, oh, here is what OJ did. Here is why he is a bad man, or was. Thank God. Anyway, um, he's literally just insulting her, like besmirching her name after she's dead, after he murdered her, and he's getting away with it, right? Like, most of the copies of this book you find, it'll be if in the tiniest little font where you can't see it. Um, my copy, it just says, I did it, right? We don't see the if. It is so minuscule and tiny. But he's getting away with insulting her, right? Like, does this not bother anyone else? I'm sure it does. I'm sure I'm just overreacting. But just the way it's phrased, it just actually it disgusts me, right? I'm being a snowflake. I get that. I am overreacting. He said physical when angry, not the end of the world. You know what? The relationship wasn't good. It wasn't healthy. It's why they broke up. It is partially why he murdered her. But you'd think someone would edit that kind of stuff out. You know, like her memory is already it's already permanently linked to him. If you look up, you know, Nicole, as she's known, you find her legacy, her whole story. It's all about OJ. And now we're even letting him dictate how she's remembered as a person. Not just her life story, but who she was. And one of the first things he says in this book is that she was physical when angry. He phrases it in such a matter of fact way, like it's nothing. Before that, you know what? He talks about her smile, right? Talks about how he was falling in love with her. And it's heartwarming, except for how we know if this story ends. If you're reading this book, you probably know how it ends. You probably know what he allegedly did. But we're still letting him dictate something like that? You know, like it even says above that she was happy, sort of. Is that not an immediate red flag? Oh, she was happy, right? How does he know? He killed her. Doesn't mean he even knows a single thing about how she was feeling. Once again, I am being a snowflake. I am being nitpicky. I am on page 6 of 129. And I don't know how I'm going to react when I finish it, right? I don't know how I'm going to feel, how I am going to respond. All I know Because right now he's depicting her as the nagging girlfriend on page 6. Here's quotes that he's using to mock her. Didn't I love her? Didn't we have a future? Couldn't we have children now while she was still young enough to enjoy them? She was asking for a life with him. In his own words, she was asking for a life with him, asking if they had a future, asking if she was going to have the joy of children. And mocking her, he talks about how he dreaded these discussions. And immediately after that, he says she was physical and angry. He spends the majority of this page belittling her. That is a cool lighting effect. Belittling her for no other reason than he can. Because he made sure she wasn't around to defend herself. And that's how she's gonna get depicted. That's how her story is going to be the most widely known. At the end of the day, she was always going to be permanently tied to OJ. She was always going to have her story linked with his. But the most publicly available and accessible version of that story was written by the monster that cut it short. Here, I'll go back to the positive. Let's go and see. Uh, he says that his kids from his first wife liked her and didn't want to hang out with him unless she was there. You know, that's pretty telling. His children didn't want to go and do things with him unless Nicole was there. And he says it so nonchalantly, phrases it as a positive. You know what? For Nicole, that's a positive. She's great. The kids love her. His own children didn't want to go and do things with him. Anyway, he talks about how he meets her at a diner of some sort. Immediately describes her before anything else as a stunner, blonde, slim, bright-eyed. It's immediately objectifying her, right? Once again, I am being a snowflake, but I have a right to be when talking about a sadistic murderer. Anyway, oh yeah, I'm calling him sadistic. The killings themselves brutal, but they sound to be, as sickening as it is to say, efficient. He stabbed with such prowess that it would have been brutal, painful, but likely fast. I say sadistic because he was smiling in the courtroom as he tried on the glove. You know, he enjoyed himself. He enjoyed putting on a show, just like he enjoyed himself writing this book and dragging her name through the mud. In chapter 1. And he asks how old she is. She just turned 18 last month. He, at this point, was a professional football player, but he does immediately list his football achievements on page 1. Sorry, technically for me it's page 3, but page 1 of talking about it. He starts it by saying, the luckiest guy in the world. Yeah, lucky is one way of putting it. Getting away with murder is certainly lucky. Boy, wouldn't we all like to have that kind of success in our endeavors? Yeah, he brags about football. I was a pretty good football player. Set a few NCAA records, won the Heisman Trophy, named American Football Conference Most Valuable Player 3 times. Page, the actual written stuff. We don't count all of the pretense. But yes, first page, he spends bragging. Second page, he talks about, his failing marriage, uh, with his first wife, Margaret, is what it is. We get through that, and we get to that next page where he meets Nicole, finds out she just turned 18, so she's nice, young, and impressionable. And then immediately after that, we get to him complaining about her, describing her as physical when angry. The first chapter he uses to brag, to talk about a failed marriage, fine, whatever, pretext. And then he objectifies Nicole and mocks her. And then besmirches her memory by characterizing her in a negative light.